we're going to do is we're going to actually rotate tires. So we're going to be swapping between back to front. And then when we do it, we're also going to be doing a brake job on the front too. So this is what we're going to be putting on. All right, before you take any tires off, make sure you have your car properly blocked, parking brake set, so that way the car is not going to roll on you when you go to do it. Break the bolts loose on the back tire. And you can see this is the wrench I'm using. I'm not using the one that comes with the car, a little 4-star. Works much quicker. If you have an impact, you can use that, but this is what I got. All right, you see I got it up. So this tire is now over there, so I can take that one and move back here. But I got my jack underneath, so I'm gonna have to use my block to put underneath to hold the back end of the car up so I can swap the jack to the other end. Okay, it's very important if you have the vehicle up, similar to this, do not get underneath it. Just in case something were to slip and the car were to come down, you don't want to be underneath of it. And even if you're using air tools, make sure to start your lug nuts by hand, so that way they're not cross-threaded and you ratchet it on there and can't get them off. All right, now we're gonna start the other side. I've actually already gone through and broke the lug nuts loose. We got them switched out, the back one's on. The front one is actually, you can see, on a block, so it's not gonna go anywhere. Now we're gonna let the back down and we're gonna go ahead and start with the brakes. All right, went ahead and we got the hood popped, parking brake is set. Now we're gonna actually take the lid for the brake fluid. I can see that was down. That's telling me the brakes are worn. So when your fluid goes down, that means your pads are wearing away. So when I push the pads back in for the new ones, this fluid level should come back up because it's a sealed environment. So what we're gonna do is keep the lid off and just set it on top. All right, so now here we are getting set up to do the brakes. All right, so you wanna look around here too, see if there's anything you can see is failing. See if there's any fluid from your struts leaking out. If there's any corrosion in brake lines or your sensors, for your ABS sensor there, that you see that wire, just check and make sure. And then make sure, like on here, there's no pitting. I mean, these are nice and smooth, but you can see the pads are starting to get pretty worn. Okay, you can see I got the wrench down here on the bottom one. This is a 14 millimeter. So you want to break this one loose first. If I can hold on to the ratchet and do this. What I normally do is take one out first, and don't lose that. You're gonna be reusing that. And then try to spin this whole thing so it's out of the way of the hose. Because you can see now that I spun it up, it's out of the way. But when you get this bolt out, don't let it just go. You wanna support it so you're not putting pressure on your hose. And actually right now, I might not even have to do that. I think I can just pop these pads out, squeeze the calipers back in the way it is, and not even have to take that other bolt out. I think we'll go that route. That looks even better. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, get these off. All right, so I popped the back pad off. I got it sitting here, but you can see it has the plate on it. These don't, so I gotta get that out of the bag yet. But you can see the little squealers, how they're different on each end. So you wanna make sure, so like that one's gonna replace there, that'll replace that because the squealer's at the same end. And this one here is gonna be a little different because the squealer's at the bottom on this side and it's at the top on the other side. Okay, now the next step we're gonna do is use the C-clamp. I can't find my bigger one, so I'm gonna have to use a smaller one and basically push the pistons, both of these, make sure they're both back down in. And before you do that, make sure, like I said, we open the cap for the brake reservoir there, so that way the pressure can come out and that'll actually make the fluid level come back up. And we'll do that on both sides and it should be back to the full mark. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna crank these down and get these back down to flush. And I didn't think about it until after I started, but when you have a double piston or whatever, you need to have one held so you can put the other one in to put the pressure back out through the line. So basically what I did was cranked it down with the thing, then basically put this clamp on there to hold it, crank down the other one. And when you're doing this, make sure behind you're not hitting your lines or anything when you're going to clamp so you don't damage anything behind it. All right, well, there's one side done. I forgot to record when I was putting it together, but the new pads are in there and these new clips are in there too. Those are actually important because if not, you can actually uneven wear, possibly chatter if you don't replace those. And you can see, here's the old ones. They may have been fine, but you know what? We have new ones. We'll go ahead and replace it. All right, so let's go back to the other side. I'll go ahead and get the caliper up and off like I was before, and then I'll show you how to put the pads on. But before we start on the other side, there's one more thing I have to do to this side, and that is put this back up so I can get the tire out from underneath to put it on there. The car is not resting on the tire. It's just there as a precaution in case something were to slip. That'll catch it, so that way it doesn't crush me or something very vital, because this block of wood is actually what's supporting all the weight. I didn't show this clip, but this top one is the same thing. So literally, it's just put it in there, and you can actually just pop it off and do that same thing in the back part here. And then you can basically just take this whole thing off. Stuck right there. And you can see it literally is just a piece of metal. But I mean, it can get fatigued from the heat from brakes and everything, so we do put new ones in. So it's literally just put this over the same spot, push it up in, make sure it's in the groove in the back, push her in. All right, because that is where your brakes are gonna sit in. So I'm gonna do the back one because you won't be able to see that, and I'm gonna see if I can find a stand and show you the front one. All right, you can see we got it set up here, but this clip is actually gonna be very important to you. So what you wanna do is make sure when you're putting your pads in, you wanna go towards the center of the drum first, or center of the rotor. Put that in, get your bottom one in also, and then it should go in and be squeezed in tight. And the back one, I can see popped out, so I gotta get that one back in again. But do the same thing. You can see they're squeezed in tight. Then you just wanna hold this and then just slide your caliper back down over top. And then make sure you get it lined up in the back here so you can get your bolt back in. So once you get that back in, and then we'll get this tightened down and all torqued, and then this will be good for this step, and we'll move on. And if you remember when we first started, we went ahead and took this cap off, because now you can see the fluid is right back up to the full mark. So nothing's been added to this, but now you want to make sure, get your cap back on, because when you go to pump your brakes and stuff, you don't want a spot where the fluid can leak. So we're gonna go ahead and get this tire back on, because we're done with the brake job. We're gonna get all this cleaned up, so that way we can go ahead and get the tire on, get this down, and then we can start pumping the brakes, and then we'll go for a little drive and get them worn in. All right, now we're in the car. You can see the brake pedal went right to the floor. Now it's back. So that means all the slack should be taken back out. So we're gonna get it started now and test her out. All right, took it back from a little drive. Make sure all the, well, since we did the rotation, make sure the tire pressure monitors are actually working. You know, this one, it doesn't have to get reset, which is nice. I know in the Pilot I have to reset. But now I'm gonna go back around all 4 tires and check, make sure the lugs are in nice and tight. And then we're all done. And I did just check the fluid levels. It hasn't changed, so that's good. And what I was doing when I took it for a drive is literally pumping the brakes, you know, making sure, you know, everything was working before you start moving. But go down the road, you know, build up some speed and literally ride the brakes a little bit to kind of get them worked in, to get that heat into them, to get them to start conforming to the rotors, because there is going to be little microscopic edges, and this way it just gets, it seemed like it bites a little bit better and it doesn't take as long to break in. But now we're just going to tighten these up and we'll be all done.